Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video, the comeback video. As you can see, I obviously haven't uploaded for a while, but I couldn't not get to the start of the season and not upload a season prediction video. Guys, I hope you enjoy it. If you're new here, please subscribe, give the video a thumbs up, and let's get straight into it. Let's start with the AFC East, potentially the hardest division to call out of all of them. But having said that, we can throw the Patriots out of that straight away. They are going to have a tough season, as we know. Certainly a rebuild year in New England. After picking the Jets to win the Super Bowl last year, that didn't last long with Rodgers going out very early. I'm not going to pick them this year. I do expect them to be good, but I think maybe at best the playoffs for the Jets. We know how good that defense is for the Jets, with Rodgers complemented by Garrett Wilson, who I think is going to have a fantastic year. Potentially Mike Williams coming in, giving Rodgers another offensive weapon if he can stay healthy throughout the year. A lot of people are liking the prospects of Breece Hall as well to complement Rodgers' offense on the ground. I was looking at the Dolphins to win the division, but I've taken a last-minute sway towards the Jets, partly because of the strength of schedule. The Jets have actually got a very easy strength of schedule, albeit in week one they do match up probably with the hardest matchup, going up against the 49ers, but after that matchup against the 49ers, they'll face the Titans, Patriots and Broncos, matchups that they'll be favourites for in all of those. And as I said, they've got the fourth easiest strength of schedule, and that is why I'm going to pick them to pick the division. Having said that, in comparison, the Bills have got a very difficult strength of schedule, and I do feel that it might be a season that the Bills and Josh Allen struggle this year. I'm still going to have them down getting into the playoffs through the wild card, even though I feel they probably finish third in this division, with the Dolphins taking that second spot. The dynamic offense led by Tua for the Dolphins will be as good as ever this season. Look for Devon Achane to have a breakout season as well. Let's move on to the AFC West, and a much easier pick here. Even as a Chargers fan, I got to go for the Kansas City Chiefs to get the victory in the West. I do think potentially we've got a shot at the wild card, and I think we will finish second in the division. Broncos, much like the Patriots, are building this season and will be bottom of this division in my opinion. I'm looking forward to see how Bo Nix can get on with him getting the starting job for the Broncos. The Raiders will probably fare slightly better than Broncos, but I don't see them getting to the playoffs either. Is Gardner Minshew really the way forward for the Raiders? Raiders fans, let me know in the comments below if there's any watching. Josh Jacobs is going to be a massive loss in that backfield too. And no doubt we're going to see split carries between White and Mattison throughout the season. It'll be interesting to see if Brock Bowers can fare better than Kyle Pitts in his rookie season. But I certainly don't think this offense is going to be putting up huge numbers. So that's certainly going to be a hindrance to him getting any big numbers. The Chiefs added to their offensive weapons this season and potentially got rid of some of those receivers, causing a bit of a liability to that offense. Rice, Hollywood Brown and Worthy are three very exciting prospects for Patrick Mahomes, and no doubt he'll be licking his lips at the prospect of these receivers. Having said all that, I think Travis Kelce will have a solid season, but I don't think he's going to be lighting up any numbers on the stats this season in comparison to what he's done in previous years, if not for nothing else, just because of all the other weapons that Mahomes has on this offense. The Chiefs definitely playoffs bound, and no doubt they will be the favourites in the AFC as it stands at the moment. Let's move on to the AFC South and my Super Bowl pick this season, the Houston Texans, led by CJ Stroud in his second season. Obviously, with that in mind, I have them taking the division too. CJ Stroud was a beast in his rookie season, and he'll be looking to take the Houston Texans straight back into the playoffs. Defense is certainly improving all the while for the Texans as well, and a nice little bonus for week one. Looks like Will Anderson will be suited up for the game. Joe Mixon is a massive addition to this offense too. Last season they struggled very much in the running game. Joe Mixon adds another threat to this offense. Diggs coming in gives CJ Stroud another weapon as well. I certainly don't see him being wide receiver one in Houston. I think that would be Nico Collins, but Stroud's certainly got lots of decent receivers around him, and we saw late on in the season last year how he was hooking up with his tight end Dalton Schultz as well. Look for that as well this season. Can't see them being challenged in this division this year, so a home game in the playoffs is on the cards for the Houston Texans. Jaguars take the number 2 spot in the division for me, but I ultimately think they'll miss out on the playoffs. But it is a huge year for Trevor Lawrence to go out there and prove himself on the back of this massive contract he's signed. No doubt Jaguars fans and the franchise are going to be expecting big things, and are probably going to want to see that next push from the Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence. Got the Colts finishing third, and I think the Titans are going to struggle this year, finishing in last place in the division. I'm interested to see how this Titans offense gets on now with the lack of Derrick Henry after all the years he was there. Young quarterback starting from week one as well. I certainly think they're going to have their backs against the wall this year. Finally, let's take a look at the AFC North, and I think it's a matchup straight up between the Ravens and the Bengals this season, and it's going to be a very mouth-watering head-to-head battle between the two to get this division. I would probably usually just favour the Bengals. Joe Burrow, I think, is going to have a massive comeback season, and obviously if Chase can get his contract sorted, we know how those two can hook up. But in this case, I'm going to take the Ravens to take the division. I think they will go very deep into the playoffs. Obviously, we'll find out very early doors how they're going to get on in week 1 when they come up against the Chiefs. We'll see what they're all about and what Derrick Henry can bring to this already amazing running offense. There could be a great combination between Henry and Lamar in the running game, but let's also not doubt Lamar now as a thrower. He's got lots of weapons to go for as well. So if the running game struggles a bit, maybe the offensive line has some struggles, they've certainly got the option to go through the air too. Bengals get the number 2 spot for me, and I do see them getting to the wild card round. Obviously, we've spoken about Joe Burrow. If he can stay healthy, running back situation in Cincinnati is very interesting as well. Obviously, Joe Mixon was there for a long time and did some very good things for them. It's obviously going to be between Zach Moss and Chase Brown. I really like Chase Brown in his rookie season. I think he could get a more developed role in this offense throughout the season. He certainly could be a back to put into your fantasy leagues if you're in a deeper, maybe 12, 16 person league. Steelers and Browns, both fascinating for me. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them does do well. Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, obviously two big quarterbacks who've both had monster seasons back a few years ago. How long until Nick Chubb comes back? It'll be amazing if he's even out there at any point this season, but certainly looks like the return's coming, but not for the early part of the season. Obviously, both defenses are very strong, and as I said, don't be surprised if one of these two teams do make a bit of a push. I actually think the Steelers could do better than expected, but I'm still not fancying them to quite make it to the playoffs. So to recap division winners, I've got the Chiefs, Texans, Ravens, and Jets. And then onto my wildcard teams, it's the Bengals, Bills, and Dolphins. Obviously, got the Chargers just missing out. Let's hope I'm proved wrong on that account. So let's get over to the NFC and start with the NFC North. Got the Lions taking this. I was very impressed with them last year, and I think they could go very close this year. I reckon they'll go deep in the playoffs, and I think ultimately they actually go to the championship game. Probably a few question marks defensively around the Lions, but this offense is high-powered. Gibbs coming into his second season now complements very well with Montgomery. Obviously, Goff, he might not be the best quarterback out there, but he's got a great set of receivers, and this team just seems to click, and they've got a really good thing going on in Detroit. The Porter as well, what a rookie season. I think potentially he might even be the number 1 pick in your fantasy teams to get in at tight end, even potentially above Kelsey. The Packers will ultimately fend off the Bears for a second spot in the division, and there is obviously a lot of hype with what we've seen from Jordan Love towards the end of last season. And I think in the most part, he'll probably live up to that. I'll be interested to see who steps up and takes this number 1 wide receiver role for Green Bay. After last season, no one really stood out. There could be Jaden Reed potentially, or maybe Christian Watkins if he can stay healthy throughout the season. The Bears are fascinating, and I think everyone's very excited to see what Caleb Williams can do with this offense. DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, the addition, they are both great experienced receivers, and it'll be interesting to see how Odunze fits into this offense too, and whether he can get quite a few targets from Williams. Sam Darnold gets another chance as a starter, and he'll be starting for the Vikings this season, but I think even the most optimistic Vikings fan wouldn't be putting them in the playoffs this season. Moving on to the NFC South, I like the Atlanta Falcons here. Kirk Cousins moving over to Atlanta. He's definitely got at least 1 season as a starter, and I think he will certainly make the most of it. He's got a very nice looking group of receivers out there, and this offense could certainly be a different prospect this year with lots of weapons around him, and Bijan Robinson looking to have a breakout year. Defensively, they're looking very good too, and as I've mentioned in previous divisions, in terms of strength of schedule, on paper, the Atlanta Falcons actually have the easiest matchups this season. Take the Bucks to finish second in the division, just missing out on the playoffs. Saints finishing 3rd, and unfortunately the Panthers bottom of the division again. Probably a very long season for them, but you never know, they might get that number 1 pick in the 25 draft. NFC East, always a competitive division, maybe less so this season, but it's certainly a 2-horse race between the Eagles and the Cowboys. The Eagles started at the end of last season and crept into the playoffs, but then had to go on the road and ultimately got found out straight away. Obviously, the addition of Saquon Barkley brings a whole new dimension to this offense. They want to find some momentum early doors and keep that going throughout the season so they can get some home playoff games this year. Cowboys, for me, also make the playoffs. I'm just never sure what to think of the Cowboys. sometimes we see flashes where people are picking them early on in the season. They always seem to falter and struggle in the playoffs. At the time of making this, Dak's contract's still not completely sorted, so it'll be interesting to see where that goes, with the prospect of Dak being the highest paid, or at least one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league very soon. Feel another frustrating year coming for the Giants. The Commanders, in comparison, Jaden Daniels getting the start. I think they obviously going to have a bit of a rebuild season, but I think they might surprise a few people. Certainly nowhere near the playoffs, but I think he has a good year, and there'll certainly be positivity going into year 2 for him. Finally, the NFC South. Obviously, the 49ers have been knocking on that Super Bowl door for a few years now, missing out twice to the Kansas City Chiefs in the last 5 years. I do feel very soon there'll be a season for the 49ers where they have a bit of a flop, a bit of a Super Bowl hangover. That being said, I don't think it's necessarily coming this season. I do take them in this division. They have the strongest roster, and obviously accompanied by Christian McCaffrey, who's going to have another monster season. And I just can't see even the Rams stopping them. The Rams will finish a close second and go into the playoffs. Matthew Stafford, he'll be 37 at the end of this season. I kind of feel that he's coming to his last season probably to have a chance at all at the Super Bowl, and I do take them going into the playoffs. Cooper Kupp, if he's back healthy for the whole season, along with Nakua, who's primed for another big year. Kyron Williams in the backfield putting up big numbers as well last season. Expect more of that. They will definitely get into the playoffs, and it probably will be Stafford's best chance for a second ring. I think the Cardinals could surprise a few people this season. I don't have them making the playoffs, but I'm very excited to see if Kyler Murray stays healthy. That combination between himself and Marvin Harrison Jr., that could be a big combo, and no doubt Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to lead rookies in the wide receiver position this season. So to recap the division winners, I'm taking the Detroit Lions, Atlanta Falcons, San Francisco 49ers, Philadelphia Eagles, and for my wild cards from the NFC, got the Dallas Cowboys, the Green Bay Packers, and the Los Angeles Rams. Right, now, so moving on, let's go for predictions in terms of the playoffs. Championship game wise and what the Super Bowl matchup is going to be. I'm going to go for the Lions over the 49ers in the NFC, giving the Lions their maiden Super Bowl appearance. I'm actually changing my mind on the AFC and my Super Bowl pick actually, so I hope you've stuck around to see what I'm changing to. I do really fancy the Houston Texans, but I'm convincing myself the Baltimore Ravens are primed to have a massive season, and I think Derrick Henry is the missing piece of the puzzle that they need to go deep. And obviously, as a Chargers fan, I can't pick the Chiefs anyway, so I'll go for the Ravens to beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship game, ultimately leading me to pick a Super Bowl of the Ravens over the Lions. Let me know in the comments below your Super Bowl picks. Let us know what team you support as well and how you think they're going to get off the season. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one.